Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Tuesday the 16th of January. Reading through Acts with McShane, today we read chapter 16, which begins with an interesting little incident. Paul, as he's going on his missionary journey, meets a young man named Timothy, and we're told that his mother was Jewish and a believer, but his father was a Greek. Now, Paul wanted to take him along on the journey, so he circumcised him because of the Jews who lived in that area, for they knew his father was a Greek. So Paul, recognizing he has a young man, hugely competent, and we know, as you read through Acts, that Timothy became an important part of his ministry, picked up a lot of the churches, ministered in them, but in order to facilitate the process, he has him circumcised. And yet, we're told, as they traveled from town to town, they delivered the decision reached by the apostles and elders in Jerusalem for the people to obey. Now, that decision was that people didn't need to be circumcised. Back in chapter 15, a number of devout Jewish Christians had said, if Gentiles become Christian or want to become Christian, they must first be circumcised and obey the law, and then they can become Christian. And the council decided that that was not the case. There were certain requirements relating to practices around idolatry that they had to be careful of, but you didn't have to be Jewish first. And despite that, Paul has Timothy circumcised. And as I read that, I thought it clearly wasn't a theological point that Paul was making. It wasn't because of theology or because of belief, or that Timothy couldn't be a Christian if he wasn't circumcised. It was a practical point. Because of the Jewish people in that area who knew Timothy, in order to facilitate their ministry, in order to help it be more successful and go more easily, he took the practical step of having Timothy circumcised. We're not told what Timothy thought of this, but anyway, and it made me think that sometimes there are practical things we can do where there's not a profound theological point at stake. We can do things for practical purposes. I had a friend who was a minister in the Anglican Church, and he recognized, and he said, Anglicans, we don't believe that we have to be teetotal. You can drink. Scripture's full of people drinking and the use of wine. Clearly, you mustn't get drunk. But he was ministering in a mining community where alcohol was a huge problem, particularly on a Friday night. And he said that within that community, he believed that he could not drink, despite what the scripture said. And it wasn't a scriptural point. It was a practical point for his ministry, for his witness, for what he was involved in. He said he couldn't drink. And it is a similar kind of thing. It was a practical decision to make ministry easier that they did this. And so sometimes we need to stand firm on the fundamentals of the faith. But where it's not a profound theological issue, we can exhibit flexibility and we can use practical considerations to guide what we do. So be challenged in your thinking, be encouraged in your doing, and know that we are blessed.